power away from the feudal lords of the Middle Ages. And so you had wealth distribution. Then the Medicis came in and they reimposed wealth concentration. So, and to try to avoid a populist uprising and the pitchforks, they throw a few bones at a couple of artists and say, hey, we love your work. Here's, you know, some shekels to go build some more.
I have to say, they did finance some of the most spectacular arts. Da Vinci was one of the greatest artists of all time, and he relied on the Medici family for a lot of his funding. So it's not like they didn't participate in that. But in terms of what's happening in America and how the process happens, Zingales, and this is actually a piece from Konstantin Gurdgiev, there are also symmetric incentives for the firms to engage in rent-seeking. As Zingales notes, if the ability to influence the political power increases with economic power, so does the need to do so, because the greater the market power a firm has, the greater the fear of expropriation by the political power. This sounds strange, but it is quite intuitive. As a firm gains market power, its prices rise above the marginal cost, yielding abnormal economic profits to the firm at the expense of consumers. The governments can and do claim political mandate to limit these profits by taxing the market's dominant firms' profits, either through regulation or direct taxation, thus expropriating part of the abnormal returns. I want to point out that, you know, Trump is a business guy first, and now he's president. And, you know, you saw that tweet. Trump says major drug companies to announce massive voluntary price decreases in 2 weeks. This is part of that fear of these pharmaceutical companies who have intellectual property, they have the State Department, they have the whole government on their side to enforce these strict intellectual property rights and to jack up prices 100%, 200%, 300% a year, and they're life-saving drugs. And a lot of people, you saw this in the 2016 election, you saw it in the 2012 election, you saw it in the 2008 election. President after president, you know, political candidate after political candidate claims that they're going to fight this one issue that Americans are really against. They're against the banking monopolies, and they're against these pharmaceutical and healthcare monopolies that are imposing so much severe costs on their basic necessities of life. And they keep on vowing to stop this monopoly pricing power, as Trump is recognizing here. But of course, he's not doing it through regulation, and he's not doing it through government diktat. He's just asking them for voluntary price decreases, allowing them to remain Medici sort of, you know, power centers.
To refer to something in the text that you're reading there, they are talking about a normal rate of return. So the business community, which owns the media, and they own most of the government, would argue there is no normal rate of return. Or a Milton Friedman type argument would be like, our only responsibility is to create a maximum rate of return, and it could be an infinite rate of return, and there is no excessive rate of return that could be considered deleterious to society at large. Now, my view is that instead of trying to establish what a normal rate of return is, there should be more of a competitive environment.
Yes.
And by introducing competition in two ways, let the interest rates in the economy be set by the market and not a Politburo, not the Stasi, that is the central bank, and introduce universal basic income and or fund the arts and entertainment in a huge way to create an offsetting incentive and competition to rein in this predatory monopolist.
They do point out in this article, and it's too long to go into it, but they do say the abnormal rates of return happen only when there's no competition. It happens in an absence of competition, because if you could dig a rock out there and sell it and your profit margin is 100%, usually competitors come in and say, wow, you can make so much money doing that, and it drives the return down to just basically a little bit above the margin.
Right, that's the business cycle, and that's capitalism, and that's what you'd expect.
But here they're saying that they're destroying their competition.
They completely destroy their competition.
So we've seen that, of course, with banking.
They do.
As you pointed out, this ended up destroying Italy, having this very powerful family. They were great guys, perhaps, and they helped a lot of the arts, and they were nice people and cuddly, perhaps, like Warren Buffett, we don't know. But the fear is of what I call a Medici vicious circle, in which money is used to gain political power, and political power is then used to make more money. In the case of medieval Italy, it turned Florence from one of the most industrialized and powerful cities in Europe to a marginal province of a foreign empire. At least the Medici period left some examples of great artistic beauty in Florence. I am not sure that market capitalism of the 21st century will be able to do the same.
Right, and you need a new Renaissance to weed out the potentates and aristocrats that during the Middle Ages created the lords and serfs and the Dark Ages, and now we have, of course, triple entry bookkeeping with crypto community, and that is the new Renaissance. Satoshi is the new Da Vinci.
And we're patrons of the new Renaissance of art, like Alex Schaefer, who's burning down the banks on canvas, you know, as a representation of what needs to happen to stop this Medici vicious cycle.
Patronage, but without being patronizing. Hey, don't go away. Much more. Michael Hudson will be in the second half. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to go to somebody who will explain how, in fact, the world got so insane. We need the expertise, the deep thinking, and the Renaissance-like mindset of Dr. Michael Hudson. Welcome to the Keiser Report.
Well, it's good to be back, Max.
I just heard some rumor you were in China. Okay.